Trev's Hockey Show. I'm the Trev. That's too sweet. Anyway, apparently I'm hitting puberty. Wrapping up my attempt at predicting the 24-25 NHL divisions. And I'm fairly certain I got this one locked. I actually have a lock on my script. I drew it out. It's a hand-drawn lock, not a physical lock. I'm that confident in this division. You can take my picks to Vegas, and if you win, I want 20%. Either way, this is my shot at predicting the Pacific Division for the 2024-25 NHL season. So, having said all that, let's talk about it. So again, like my other division prediction videos, feel free to jump in on this. Let me know if you think my picks are out to lunch. Feel free to give me your picks. For the record, my picks are almost identical to some of the quote-unquote experts. Not that I'm basing my predictions off what they say. I'm basing mine based off what I think divisions are going to look like by the end of the year. So just know that me and the quote-unquote experts are not that far off. So here's my picks from 8-1 on how the Pacific Division is going to go for this season. Starting with number 8. Again, going to be the Sharks. And it's not so much because it's the predictable pick. I mean, yeah, they got a new coach in Borowski. Sure. They got Macklin Celebrini. That's a great thing. I mean, new additions. I mean, you're going to add Will Smith to this team. Check. But you're still going to have a bad year. But it's not to say that you're not set up for the future. I mean, you go in net between Vanacek, Blackwood, and Askarov. Take your pick. I mean, Vanacek and Blackwood are on soon-to-expire deals, so obviously Askarov's going to be your goalie of the future, right? That's the idea. So, you're okay in net. Eventually. I know, obviously, your defense has to get better first, but I'm sure they're working on that. But outside Vlasic, Cody Ceci, maybe even Matt Benning, if he gets time, defense looks pretty weak. Again. I mean, you get your forward line. I mean, right now Couture's on IR, but I mean, you still got Toffoli, you still got Granlund, Wenberg, Goudreau, Klim Kostin, you know, for some muscle. You really can't go wrong. I mean, like I said, you got Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, and William Eklund, who are all going to make, I'm sure, a difference in a year or two. But it's that year or two that you're going to have to wait before San Jose actually becomes a competitive team, which is a shame because I like when San Jose is a competitive team. I really do. Anyway, going to be a long year. Number 7, Calgary Flames. Again, not because it's the predictable pick, it's the logical pick. I mean, Calgary did not do much to improve. As a matter of fact, I think they got worse. I mean, obviously losing Markstrom was not ideal, but, you know, one of those things they couldn't control. But you leave a giant hole in net. I mean, Vladar and Dustin Wolf. I mean, Wolf's obviously the goal of the future, but he's not experienced enough right now to be the number 1. That's huge. Whereas defense is concerned, I mean, you take Mackenzie Weegar and maybe Tyson Barrie, depending on what version of Tyson Barrie you get. And it's a lot of weak defense. And that's the problem. And I don't know if Calgary is actually going to want to address that at some point, but the defense doesn't make the goaltending any better. And I mean, you move up to forward, and unless Huberdeau and Kadri decide they want to stand up and actually pull a game out, you're stuck in between $17.5 million for guys who do not want to produce. But I mean, having Kuzmenko and Coleman on the team is not a bad thing, nor is adding Anthony Mantha, while you still have Sharon Govich. So I mean, for the Flames, it's really a matter of, can this team actually start to work? Because what you were paid for up front is not, it doesn't coalesce with how you're finishing at the end of the season. And I don't expect this year to change. Finishing at 6, I got the Anaheim Ducks. New look, same result. But I'm sure once the Ducks figure out what they're doing with Zegras and John Gibson, the picture becomes less murky. Until said events happen, though, I wouldn't expect the best. I mean, again, obviously they got the goalie of the future in Lucas Dostal, but having Gibson there, and every year it's the same Gibson to this team, Gibson to that team rumor. Make up your mind. When are you trading him? Defense looks beefy. I mean, between Fowler, Gudis, and Dumoulin, yeah, you got guys who can push guys around. But can these guys still help produce on the power play? Can they still set up the points when they need to? Not really, I don't think. Again, defense only makes your goalie look strong, and I mean, this does not scream strong defense to me. But when you get to forwards, I mean, you look at all the guys you got up front between Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras, who I've mentioned earlier, Frank Vetrano, Cutter Gauthier and Leo Carlson, maybe even Mason McTavish. This guy should be the limit, but I mean, until these guys develop and actually start becoming point per game superstars, or scoring phenoms like most of them are supposed to be, you're not going to get your results. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think Anaheim's making a push this year. Next season, when they figure out what they're doing with one or the other or both, and they make moves to actually improve a little more, maybe, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. At number 5, picking the LA Kings. So this is definitely one of those picks that me and the quote-unquote experts don't agree on. Not that that's a terribly bad thing, because I mean, I can't think of too many instances where I want to be right with the quote-unquote experts. But a lot of it too could be me thinking with my heart and not my head. But I think when you look at a goaltender tandem or trio, when the name Darcy Kemper comes in, I can only ever think of one good season he ever had in his entire career. And he's the number 1 guy in LA. Let that sit in for a bit. And when you get to defense, I mean, your oldest guys between Doughty and Edmondson, everybody else is under 30. I mean, your youngest defenseman is 21, and I mean, he's going to have a lot of room to develop, I'm sure, but what happens when Doughty can't play no more? Then what? And up front, I mean, you have your Fialas and your Byfields, maybe even Andrea and Kempe, who could make a difference this season. Outside that, I mean, Kopitar is still your biggest name, as is maybe Philip Deneau if you want to add him as a big name. But again, it's a matter of, are they scoring by committee, or do you have one bona fide guy who's going to score the majority of your goals? Either way, I don't know if it'll be enough for LA to contend for a playoff spot, keep a playoff spot, or even push for a wild card spot. Now, this isn't me saying the Kings aren't making the playoffs. I'm just saying it's going to be very hard for the Kings to make the playoffs this year. At number 4, picking your Seattle Kraken. Okay, so last year wasn't a good season, but you finally got the coach you want in. After that 2-year Dave Hackstall experiment, we finally got Danny B behind the bench. And hopefully that's enough to make a playoff push. Hopefully that's enough to get some of the younger kids started. Hopefully it's enough to keep momentum. Let's explore. Now, net should be very interesting. I mean, Grubauer has not played like a $5.9 million goalie, whereas Decourt is definitely playing like a $1.2 million goalie. And, being Decourt is at a contract year as well, things could get very interesting in the net for the benefit. I mean, you go to defense, between Dunn and Montour, Alexiak and Larson, maybe even Riker Evans once he fills into his shoes quite nicely. We got a pretty solid defense. I'm not overly stoked on Montour myself, but that's just another Stanley Cup ring to the collection, right? Then you move up front, and I'm really hoping Beniers has a real good bounce back season. I'm hoping Shane Wright actually breaks through and starts being the scoring machine that we're hoping he is. I'm not overly stoked on Chandler Stevenson either. That's, another 2 Stanley Cup rings to add to the collection. But we managed to keep Tolvanen and Karche. I mean, we can hope for good things from Karche. Oh no, I think McCann's going to have another good, solid 35-40 goal season. That's not in question. But hopefully this is enough to make the playoffs. I'm sure there'll be improvements along the way. I'm hoping we'll have another good waiver wire pickup like we had with Tolvanen. But I'm hopeful Seattle will make the playoffs this season. For number 3, I'm picking Vancouver. Now I'm wondering if I'm picking Vancouver at number 3 because I don't want to see Vancouver at number 2. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, right? But obviously, question one everybody has when it comes to Vancouver is the health of Thatcher Demko. And if he's actually going to be able to play the start of the season, the first half of the season, how bad is this injury, da-da-da-da-da. But, I mean, outside Demko, you still got Archer Sealoves and Kevin Lankinen on deals. So, I mean, you're okay as long as Sealoves doesn't decide to collapse. Defense should be very interesting. I mean, Quinn Hughes probably has a huge boost of confidence thanks to that Norris Trophy season. I mean, Tyler Myers, yeah, he's still big. He's still got a hell of a check. Vinny DeHarnay, I mean, that's a good addition to take away from the Oilers for sure. Defense looks feisty as ever. I mean, I'm sure they'll have no problem keeping the puck out, at least sometimes out of the net. And then you go up front, and I mean, they got a huge injection of size and ability with Jake DeBrusk. No questions about that. I mean, if Pettersson decides to have a season of a lifetime, if Miller can keep playing the way he's playing, if Besser can keep playing the way he's playing, and there's no reason to think Besser can't be, it's a contract year for him as well. Between Connor Garland and Teddy Bluger, you go down the list, even Daniel Sprung is on the Vancouver Canucks this season. Keep going down the list, and they're okay as far as forwards depth is concerned. So look for Vancouver to at least be, I don't want to say scoring goals in buckets, but definitely a good goal-scoring team. For number 2, I got the Vegas Golden Knights. So as I'm recording this right now, Vegas is still $3 million over the cap. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of move they make before the start of the season. But I mean, either way, it's wrong to expect anything different for the Vegas Golden Knights. When it comes to Vegas, I like to think of the old adage, wash, rinse, repeat. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't expect much different from how Vegas has done things to the way Vegas will do things. I mean, I would even go as far as say, look for that long-term injury reserve placement at some point during the season. I'm sure at some point the NHL will finally decide to start cutting down on that, but until that day. Now, I imagine once Leonard gets placed on LTIR, if he isn't already, that should help with some cap relief. But in net, I mean, between Adin Hill and Ilya Samsonov, who are both in a contract year, it's still pretty solid for the 1-2 in net. And I mean, defense is still pretty solid between Pietrangelo, Hanifin, Theodore, and McNabb. It's a good 4, at least on the defense. So don't think there are too many holes in the defensive end for Vegas, because there's none. And then you go forward, and I mean, let me know when you want me to stop. Between Eichel, Stone, Hurdle, Carlson, Barbashev, I mean, the list goes on. They're solidly stacked on forward. I think they got so many forwards and so many open spots for anybody who can join on this team. They don't know what to do. But yeah, it's a goal-scoring nightmare when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights and their forwards. Even Barbashev, you have to expect 20-30 goals from pretty much any or all of these guys, if not more. So another one of those goal-scoring by the bunches team. So winning the Pacific Division, I have the Edmonton Oilers. So this is now Stanley Cup Bowman's team. This should be interesting. I mean, the smart move going into this offseason was definitely re-signing and extending Draisaitl, but now what do you do with McDavid? You just hand him the check and say, here, fill it out. Whatever you want to put in there, we're okay with that. What do you do? But as for this season goes, when it comes to McDavid, he'll hit that 1,000-point mark pretty fast, as I'm pretty sure he's only 18 points away. Expect that within the first month and a half, latest. And much like Dallas, the whole "it ain't broke, don't fix it" logic applies. I mean, Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard, proven to be a good, solid 1-2 punch in net, and I mean, sky's the limit as far as these two are concerned, right? You go to defense, I mean, yeah, you're still restricted by that Darnell Nurse contract, but you take that out of the way. Ekholm is no slouch, neither is Evan Bouchard. I mean, Bouchard's the best offensive defenseman you've probably seen in a while, and he's got an RFA deal at the end of the season. Brett Kulak isn't anything to sneeze at either. I mean, I could keep going, but the Oilers' defense looks pretty solid. And then you get to the forward core. I mean, between McDavid and Draisaitl, who's the next player you want to put with either one of these guys to hit 100 points? I mean, Hyman did it. Hyman also scored 50 goals. Hopkins scored 100 points. You got Arvidsson on the team. You got Henrique. You got Jeff Skinner. I mean, all those guys are in need of a career resurgence. Corey Perry, you don't expect much out of him, but he can definitely help out as far as being that depth player, being that player that goes in the corners, makes the plays, whatever, draws the penalty. He's your guy. But who's going to be the next superstar you put with McDavid and Draisaitl to score 100 points, to score 50 goals? Ultimately, it doesn't much matter, right? But I think with the whole experience of losing the Stanley Cup and knowing what it takes to get there and knowing how quickly it can fall from your hands, expect the Oilers to make a lot of noise. Regular season playoffs, it doesn't matter. Expect them to be making noise. So that's my take on the Pacific Division. Give me your picks if you want to. It's another one of them Trev's hockey shows. I want to thank you for tuning in. Don't think I don't appreciate the gesture, especially if you've made it to this point. And if you have made it to this point, hey, just know that I am pretty damn grateful that you have. I mean, the subscriber count keeps going up, so that's a great thing. So if you've made it this far, if you're enjoying what I'm saying, even if you just want to say hi, feel free to give me a thumbs up. Know that I do appreciate it. If you want to, that red button that says subscribe all over it, I'd appreciate that a lot too. I would appreciate it. My algorithm would appreciate it. It'll make you feel good. It'll make me feel good. So feel free to do it up. If you want, you can follow my Facebook page in the description down below. Let's move forward as far as the regular season is concerned. Well, now we play the waiting game. We wait for the Stanley Cup ring to be released, and then we react to that. But either way, in the meantime, and in between time, be looking for videos from Trev. Later.